1,000 layer potatoes. Can we improve them? Let's find out. A lot of people had suggestions. So we're back here, russet potatoes to start. These are the best potatoes that I think work for this recipe. Yukon Golds I think are better for like fries. But here's improvement 1. This is a spiralizer. I believe that's what it's colloquially called. But first we're going to start, just peel these potatoes. I like to still do it onto parchment paper. Some of these potatoes had huge bruises like that in there, so if anyone knows how to avoid those, picking them, let me know, but just cut it out and you're totally fine. Discard your potato peels, you won't need those. And then let's put this spiralizer together. It's my first time using it, I'm pretty excited. You take one side of it and you screw it in, which holds the potato tightly in place. You insert that into it, and then there's a support rod from the other side that just kind of holds it still. You put that in. Now that top part that's the blade there. It's kind of like a large mandolin, and as you spin, it's going to cut off sheets of this potato. Make sure you spin it the right way though, otherwise you unscrew the handle. At the beginning, it's going to cut kind of strangely because the potato isn't completely flat. Once it starts to get down and make its marks here, you'll see that it starts to cut off these beautiful layers of potato. Like, look at that there starting. These are beautiful sheets of nice, see-through, thin potatoes. This, for everyone who had an issue with how long the mandolin took, this will greatly reduce the time. But there are some caveats to that, and we'll get to that. But look at how beautiful and thin and even this is. I'm going to still put some cream in a bowl and dip the potatoes into it. The change I'm making you'll see shortly, but I'm going to try to keep everything else fairly the same, and this also helps with the oxidation. Just dunk those in there, let them sit. They'll take on some of that flavor too, which is nice while they bake. You're also left with this weird little core of potato, which I'm sure there's a lot of cool uses for. I'm just going to put them to the side and see if I find any. But now let's use a baking sheet. Thanks for everyone who pointed out the little crumple technique with the parchment paper. It was definitely easier. There's no great way to do it in my opinion, but this was an improvement. And now let's start layering. The first layer I noticed, because of the way the potato's kind of shaped, it doesn't lay flat. So I'm going to cut strips out of it just to make sure that the bottom layer is completely flat in the pan. And then after that, we could have, uneven sides because we're going to trim those off anyway. But I'm just cutting off those side pieces and making sure the bottom layer is totally flat here. And now you'll see the main improvement here. We're going to coat some Parmesan cheese onto every layer. A lot of people mention cheese. I'm trying to not use a runny cheese that's going to melt too much and screw up keeping the layers together, but I want to see how does Parm help it. And then you're just going to keep layering. These pieces are almost the perfect size. The sides are a little wrinkly, but that's totally fine. But just each layer, Parmesan cheese, cream. I'm not doing butter with this one also because I think that might be overkill, but we'll find out. And then just keep layering. You're going to be left with some odd ends and pieces due to just the shapes of the potato. So every few layers, I'm just trying to incorporate those, but I'm trying to use as many of these nice, even, long sheets that it cut. It is, I've noticed, very much dependent on the potato. The size of the potato will determine how nice the sheet looks. This was a smaller potato, and those pieces are fairly nice, but they're thinner, they're a little more oblong, so you got to do a little more layering there. You do save time overall from using a mandolin, but there are definitely some, negatives to using this device. But here's the final product. The top two layers are just kind of piecemeal of the broken pieces, but that's totally fine. And now we're going to cover it in that parchment paper and throw it into the oven again for an hour at 375. Same test as last time also. Slide that toothpick in and you'll know if it's done. You want to see it almost like cake. It's not going to pull out potato, but you want it to slide in very easily and resistance free. I know a lot of these steps are repeated. Sorry about that, but if people are just seeing this for the first time, I still want to walk them through how to make this. Now we're going to press it. Before I use a 5-pound weight, which is what I start with this time, but these are slightly larger loaf pans than I did previously, and this one just didn't feel like it was sitting even or flat enough. So I grab another 5-pound weight, and we have 10 pounds holding this guy down. So this is a very, very nicely pressed loaf. But now throw this into your fridge.
One eternity later.
Not an eternity, but this is like 6 hours. You could leave it overnight also, totally fine. But we're gonna pop these weights off. It's nice and cold now, it's pressed, and it's ready for you to take out. Look at how perfect that is. Nice and pressed, you see those nice little brown bits. Try to pull it out, but if it doesn't come out easily like last time, just put it under some hot water and it'll slide right on out. And now we're gonna go about trimming this. It looks great. It looks exactly like it did last time. I think I might even have a few more layers this time, a little more compacted also. But due to just how those potatoes were shaped, trimming off the edges here is going to be pretty key to making sure you get not weird crinkly edges, and those crinkly edges help. Well, they don't help. They do the opposite. They subtract from the nice frying ability. The crinkliness of them will just lead to seams opening and potentially losing your layers inside the frying pan. But once you're left with that, like last time, cut nice, you know, 1/2 inch to inch thick slices, and that's just beautiful. Those layers are perfect. It's not falling apart, so you know it's going to be good. And then I'm going to throw this onto a plate just like last time, and we're going to throw these into the freezer for 15-20 minutes before I fry them, just to really make sure those layers stay together. And now's the fun part. Get this into a pan, shallow fry it with oil. Temperature-wise, this is probably somewhere between 3 and 350, so 150 to 175 Celsius. And you're just going to cook these for probably 5 to 8 minutes. You want to see golden brown, and you want to make sure they're not falling apart. I flipped them here about halfway through. You can see the edges are starting to get really nice. I like to use a fork because tongs tend to kind of destroy the nice layers. So I'm trying to be as gingerly moving these as possible, and just keep rotating them. The one thing I do notice is that the very bottom layer, as you can see on the bottom potato there, they were all a little overcooked somehow in the oven in this new method, and those bottom layers all kind of separated and overly cooked, but they popped off super easily, and then you wouldn't even notice they were there. Once you pop them out, we're gonna hit both sides here with salt while they're hot and oiled, just like if you were making French fries, and that salt's gonna stick on there beautifully. And here we are. To be honest, I think they look a little less nice than previously, but let's see how the taste is. They look inside perfect. I don't think there's any look difference. Taste-wise, though, I don't think the parm added anything. I think the extra effort that's required to go through that step didn't add much to the overall taste. I think a little bit of butter in between each layer goes a lot further and is a lot tastier. But if you want to add cheese, go for it. Let me know what else you want me to try next time, but I think the original was better.